the lights are low, looking out for a place to go, where they play the right music, getting in the swing. You come to look for a king. Anybody could be that guy. Night is young and the music's high. With a bit of rock music, everything's fine. You're in the mood for a dance. And when you get the chance, you are the dancing queen, young and sweet, only 17. Dancing queen, feel the beat from the tambourine. You can dance, you can jive, having the time of your life. See that girl, watch that scene, digging the dancing queen. You're a tease, you turn him on, leave him burning and then you're gone. Looking out for another, anyone will do. You're in the mood for a dance. And when you get the chance, you are the dancing queen, young and sweet, only 17. so fine. Come on and twist a little closer now. Twist a little closer. And let me know that you're mine. Know you're mine. Well, take it, baby, now. Shake it up, baby. Well, take it, baby, now. Shake it up, baby. Well, take it, baby, now. Shake it up, baby.
I got a feeling that tonight's gonna be a good night. That tonight's gonna be a good night. That tonight's gonna be a good night. A feeling that tonight's gonna be a good night. That tonight's gonna be a good night. That tonight's gonna be a good night. A feeling that tonight's gonna be a good night. That tonight's gonna be a good night. That tonight's gonna be a good night. A feeling that tonight's gonna be a good night. That tonight's gonna be a good night. That tonight's gonna be a good night. Tonight's the night. Let's live it up. I got my money. Let's spin it up. Go out and smash it. Like oh my God. Jump out that sofa. Let's get off.
I know that we'll have a ball if we get down and go out and just lose it all. I feel stressed out, I wanna let it go. Let's go way out, spaced out and losing all control.
Fill up my cup. Mazel tov. Look at her dancing. Just take it off. Let's paint the town. We'll shut it down. Let's burn the roof.
And then we'll do it again.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's do it. And do it. And do it. Let's live it up. And do it. And do it. And do it. Do it. Do it. Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's do it. 'Cause I got a feeling that tonight's gonna be a good night. That tonight's gonna be a good night. That tonight's gonna be a good night. A feeling that tonight's gonna be a good night. That tonight's gonna be a good night. That tonight's gonna be a good night. I feel tonight's the night. Hey, let's live it up.
Let's live it up.
I got my money. Hey, let's spin it up. Let's spin it up. Go out and smash it.
Smash it.
Like oh my God.
Like oh my God.
Jump out that sofa.
Come on.
Let's get off. Fill up my cup.
Drink.
Mazel tov. Look at her dancing.
Move it, move
Just
it.
take it off. Let's paint the town.
Paint the town.
We'll shut it down.
Shut it down.
Let's burn the roof.
And then we'll do it again.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's do it. And do it. And do it. Let's live it up and do it. And do it. And do it. Do it. Do it. Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's do it. Do it. Do it. Do it. Here we come. Here we go. We gotta rock. Easy come. Easy go. Now we on top. Feel the shot. Body rock. Rock it. Don't stop. Round and round. Up and down. Around the clock. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Friday, Saturday, Saturday to Sunday. Get with us. You know what we say. Party every day. Party every day. And I'm feeling Mr. Worldwide to infinity. You know the roof on fire. We go boogie, oogie, oogie, jiggle, wiggle, and dance like the roof on fire. We go drink drinks and take shots until we fall out like the roof on fire. Now, baby, get my booty naked, take off all your clothes and light the roof on fire. Tell her, baby, 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 I'm on fire. I tell her, baby, 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 I'm a fireball. Now big bang boogie, get that kitty little noogie in a nice, nice little shave. I gave Susie a little pat up on the booty and she turned around and said, walk this way. I was born in a plane. Mama said that every word would know my name. I'm the best you've ever had. If you think I'm burning out, I never am. I'm on fire. I'm on fire. I'm on fire. Fireball. Sticks and stones may break my bones, but I don't care what y'all say. Cause as the world turns, y'all boys gonna learn that the Chico right here don't play. That boy's from the bottom, bottom of the map, MIA, USA. I gave Susie a little pat up on the booty and she turned around and said, walk this way. I was born in a plane. Mama said that every word would know my name.
All right, everyone, take a seat. We're going to start here in a few minutes.
If you think I'm burning out, I never am. I'm on fire. I'm on fire. I'm on fire. I'm on fire. Fireball.
All right, everybody grab a seat. We're going to start. Okay, so welcome to RevU today. Excited to be here. Woohoo! So we've got a great lineup today. Want to start off with just a couple of announcements. The first big one is we have our annual, or I think it's our 5th annual entrepreneurship competition. We're going to have it in a really cool place this year. The new business building at UVU, that's where we're going to hold it. This space has been fun, but we've kind of outgrown it. So UVU's been nice enough to let us go there. So we've got 36 companies that will be competing and pitching, and so it's a free event open to the public. So be sure and come. It is going to be Saturday, September 17th. If you want more information, you can go to ecomp.revroad.com. So go there, check it out. It'll be awesome. And then kind of the last thing, as we do, we'll have Q&A at the end of both sessions. If you have a question, raise your hand and wait for a mic. If you're online, just put your question in the chat, and then we'll say it here. So to start off, well, I guess our schedule is kind of outlined here. We've got AJ and Tyler Richards. They're going to give us a presentation on mentorship, and then after that, we've got Jeremy and Kristin Andrus from Traeger Grills, which everyone's heard of that, so we're excited for that. Right afterwards, that's our Builder series. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and turn the time over to AJ, who's he's over marketing here at RevRoad. He's their Chief Marketing Officer, also co-founder here at RevRoad. And then we'll also have Tyler Richards. And Tyler is the co-founder and GP of Startup Ignition Ventures, and they'll be talking about mentorship. So everybody give up for AJ and Tyler.
Hello, hello. Who's excited, you guys? It's going to be a great day. Really quick, so RevRoad has a mentor program. Who here has had an amazing mentor in their life at some point? Pretty much everyone. Okay. So we've got a mentor program here at RevRoad too, and it's going really well. We've got some great investors and some partners that help our portfolio companies. If you ever want to learn more about that and see who is working with us currently, go to our website, down in the footer, click on mentors, and you'll have a page that will show you who's here, who's working with us. We'd love to have more. So if you're interested in doing that, please submit submit the submission form we've got there, put your information there, and then we'll get that and we'll give you a call, okay? But today, we've got a huge treat. We've got Tyler Richards here to talk to us about mentors. Super excited. He's kind of a legend in the tech world up I-15, up and down I-15. He's originally from Seattle, Washington, and he moved to Provo to attend BYU. Crazy how that works, right? And he majored in business management in the Marriott School of Business. And as an entrepreneur, Tyler has he's gravitated towards the tech industry, and he was recently named one of the Peak 100 list of top entrepreneurs in Utah and surrounding areas. Tyler has created products and companies that improve their respective industries, and he has brought that expertise to his last 3 ventures, all resulting, this is cool, in multi-million-dollar acquisitions and exits. His latest exit was Dev Mountain. Who here has heard of Dev Mountain? Yes. An industry-leading code school nestled in the heart of the Intermountain West, and that happened in 2016. Tyler has been an active angel investor for the last 7 years, investing in many names you'd recognize along the I-15 corridor. This year, Tyler has officially been entered into the venturecapital.org as an acting GP, and he's in the pre-seed venture fund known as Startup Ignition Ventures. So with that, let's welcome Tyler up to the stage. Loud. Come on, you guys. I'm going to turn it over to him.
Thank you, AJ. Very cool. Okay, let's all wink right now and pretend like you're here for me and not Jeremy and Kristin. So I know the truth. It's okay. I'm not that cool. But hi, I'm Tyler. I just want to introduce myself real quick. Thank you for that awesome introduction, AJ. Too kind. Yes, I'm originally from Seattle, and I've always gravitated towards technology. I love art. I love golf. I love pickleball. And, of course, I love business. Always been in the startup realm my whole life. I remember attending BYU. Yes, I got my degree. And I remember everybody, when they graduated, everybody was getting these awesome jobs, going to these awesome startups or awesome Fortune 500 companies. And I was executing on this small little startup at BYU. And I'm like, am I making the right choice in my life? So I've been there. I know what it's like to be a founder. And I've done a little bit of this startup world like you guys are experiencing right now. Just to give you a little bit of street cred, I've participated in 3 acquisitions, which have been awesome. My latest one was Dev Mountain in 2016. We sold that to a larger education company. For those that don't know, Dev Mountain was a coding school where we taught people how to code and become developers and programmers and exit into the industry as junior programmers and upgrade from there. Most recently, I started actually with my father, John Richards, for those that know him. Yes, I am the son of John Richards. That is also a claim to fame of mine. We started a small little venture fund, so that's been super fun this year, raising some capital and deploying it into awesome teams, ideas, and innovative products here in Utah. But this is really entrepreneurship, and I know everybody's going through that. As a founder, it's just mind-blowing, right? So many problems come up, issues arise, things that you don't have solutions to. So how do you get through this? I know there's so many different ways to get through this, but what AJ said and what we're talking about today, I think one of the biggest helps and it aids in entrepreneurship are mentors, right? Mentorship. And these are people that have been there, done that. True mentors are people that can get you from point A to point B quicker and more efficiently in your own path. Right? Instead of you banging your head against the wall for hours, weeks, months, and years on a problem or solution, you can get there so much quicker by leaning on mentorships and mentors in your specific industry or niche or product or whatever you're doing. So, how many of you have heard of the Startup Genome Project? It was, you have, Robert has heard of it, Scott has heard of it, of course, but for those that don't know, the Startup Genome Project was a research study where they basically went and polled thousands of startup companies. And they tried to find correlation and similarities between these startups, successful ones and unsuccessful ones. What makes a successful startup? What makes an unsuccessful startup? Why do startups fail? Why do startups succeed? And in that survey and in that research study, they asked about mentors and mentorship. And they found out that those founders using outside help from mentors, people that know what they're talking about, people that know what they're doing, are typically, they raise 7 times more capital to their venture. they actually have 3.5 times more users or clients on their product. And the inverse, for those that didn't seek outside help, meaning that it was just the founding team, 2 co-founders, 3 co-founders, 4 co-founders, whatever, actually had 3 times less success, were 3 times less likely to pivot to a winning business model. The average venture pivots 7.5 times before they actually get to the winning product, right? The chances of you as a founder sitting in your own cubicle at your desk thinking of an idea and it being the one you're taking to market is literally 1 out of 1 million. And if that is happening, great, you're probably Facebook or Google and landed on an amazing business model, right? So it does happen, but the chances of that is very, very slim. So mentorship can help you shape that business, help you shape the product, help you shape whatever you're trying to bring into to the marketplace by awesome exterior data points, right? And Startup Genome proves that. And I'd like to think about mentoring as not just so much as me as a founder or you as an entrepreneur going out and trying to find additional knowledge, because mentoring is really a two-way street. I think as a founder or in my mentoring or as even a mentee and going to ask mentors to help me or be my mentor, just asking someone for knowledge is more like a teacher, right? If I, as a founder or an entrepreneur, I'm looking for information, I can go take a course. I can go to BYU and take a class. I can go learn something from someone. But mentoring is a little bit different, and I think that's a little bit skewed in today's entrepreneurial world, where mentorship is looked at as like, oh, teach me something, give me something. But mentoring is really a two-way street where the mentee also has to provide value to the mentor. I think that's where I've had most of my successful mentorships and mentees and even mentors come into my life, is when it's a two-way street where the mentor is providing value to the mentee and the mentee is providing value to the mentor, right? And it's mostly based around meaningful relationships. Mentorships is our relationships, right? You have to really nurture those relationships. If I'm just being asked out to lunch or coffee or to a meeting or whatever, and it's just a one-time thing, again, that becomes more of like a teaching session, whereas mentorship happens when you're building relationships between mentor and mentee. My mentorships in my career have been relationships, and that's why I can show every single logo on the screen. I know the CEOs or founders or people at those companies because I've built relationships around that mentorship. An example from my career is, again, I was the founder of Dev Mountain, and Dev Mountain is a tech school. We taught people how to code and how to get into web development and learn those skills very quickly in like a boot camp format. And one of the logos on these screens I thought could be an awesome acquisition target, right? Someone who could acquire my company. And so I made it a goal at my time at Dev Mountain to get to know a lot of high-end tech CEOs and founders and say, okay, maybe I can nurture some kind of acquisition here or some kind of exit strategy for myself. And I approached that in the wrong way, just saying, okay, I'm going to go to these events where they're at and have like a very fluffy conversation, or just go up and shake their hand or give out my business card and slap it down on every single table. That's not building meaningful relationships. That's not building mentorship. That's just me trying to get in front of as many people as I can. Versus one of the companies on this screen, I made a real effort to get to know this CEO. And so one time at a Silicon Slopes award ceremony back in like 2015, Dev Mountain at the time was doing really well, and we were awarded 2015's fastest growing startup in Utah. So Silicon Slopes gave us that award. They invited us out to this awesome award ceremony one night, and the CEO of this company was backstage. And I'm like, okay, now's my chance. I'm going to talk to him. I'm going to get close to him so I could pick his brain, so I could, again, hopefully get, in his sights for an acquisition. And that's my Dev Mountain exit strategy. And so I talked to him at that event backstage. It was literally like a 2-minute conversation. But at that conversation, I found out that he really liked the Utah Jazz. And so I had a friend, and so that event ended. It was a very meaningless conversation, very meaningless relationship. And that event ended, and I asked one of my friends who worked at the Utah Jazz, who was just a low-level salesman, I said, hey, can you get me some kind of swag or some kind of like signed autograph something from someone from the Utah Jazz? And he's like, no, I'm just a low-level salesman. I can't get you like a Donovan Mitchell signed ball or any kind of autograph thing. That's just way out of my wheelhouse. But he said, but what I can do is I can let you come to the game and let you in early so you can come around warm-ups and maybe you could get an autograph or two on something. So what I did is I went to a sporting goods store, bought myself a ball, bought nosebleed tickets. He let me in early to the game. I went there at like 5 p.m. when it started at 7 p.m. And I went down to the front row when they were doing shoot-around practice, and I shoved little kids out of the way, and I was putting my ball in front of them. And I literally got almost every single Utah Jazz player's autograph on that ball. And what did I do with it? I put it in a package, mailed it to the literal office desk of that CEO that I wanted to build meaningful relationships with. And about 3 days later, I got an email back from him saying, Tyler, that was the most nicest thing anybody's ever done for me. That ball is literally sitting in my little boy's room, and that was so nice of you. Thank you so much for doing that. I now send that CEO Christmas cards every year because we have such a good relationship, and he's become a huge mentor in my career. So that's what I mean by mentorship, building meaningful relationships, really getting to know people and providing a two-way street there, right? Providing value back to the mentor as well, right? So what makes a good mentor? Again, someone who knows what they're doing, someone who might be like a step or two ahead of you is a great mentor, someone who's been down this path and had a successful outcome. That's what you need to look for in mentors. But what I like to look for is problem solvers, just generalists, like, hey, I have a problem, how can we solve this? And we work together to find a solution. One time in my career, it was September, and we were riding really high on revenues in one of my companies at Dev Mountain. And we said, wow, as an LLC, when you have revenues at the end of the year, those earnings are passed on to you personally. So I said, hey, I don't want to take a huge tax hit here. Let's go spend some money. We were going to end the year with about $750,000 in the bank, and I didn't want to pay those personal tax passed on to me at the end of the year. So as a company, we went out and spent that money. We went and dropped a brand new location, a new school in Dallas, Texas. And we weren't thinking very much, and we overspent. We bought a huge lease. We hired too many people. We bought chairs and desks and projectors, high-end tech equipment, and we overspent. October rolls around, and me and my co-founder realized, wow, we're going to be in the red. We're not going to have money for December if we continue on this path. We have overspent, and we are so done. So what did I do? I went to one of my mentors, who I've used for like the previous 7 years before this experience, and he was a numbers guy. He was one of those mentors that taught me how to count my pennies, right? And make sure I knew what I was looking at, forecasting, models, projections, 3, 5, 10-year projections in everything that I was doing. And he's always emphasized that. So I went straight to him. In about a month of time, we figured out, yes, we have to lay off some people. Otherwise, we're not going to make December payroll. But he was the one to literally lift us out of that hole. I remember going home that day when we figured out we were going to be in the red from the spending of dropping a new location and curling up in a ball on my couch and just like crying to myself, like, what am I going to do? Literally in December, first paycheck of December, right before Christmas, I'm going to have to tell people, hey, I don't have money for you. So it was horrible. But that mentor had been by my side. I've leaned on him a ton of my career, and he got us through that. 6 months later, April of 2016, we sell for tens of millions of dollars. So we got out of that hole. It was a crazy hard time, but I literally owe that to that mentor of mine who again, I went for financial help. So find problem solvers like that can help you in those really, really tough situations. And also be a good mentee, right? Be coachable, be teachable, understand. Also, be aware of time and be present, and don't waste time and just listen when they give advice. Of course, you have to take in that data point, right? You have many opinions coming your way, so you as an entrepreneur and founder, you have to ultimately make the decision on what you're needing to do. But I think a good mentee listens to every single point coming across their desk, right? And don't be intimidated by mentors. I've done this in my career, in that situation at Dev Mountain when we were in the red and we weren't going to make payroll. I could have just held that to myself, not gone to my mentor because I was embarrassed. I've actually had this as a mentor. I've had one of my mentees do this. About 2.5 years ago, I invested in a small company. I only gave them $25,000, but to go prove out this model of work that they were trying to build a product for. And things were going great. I was working side by side with this founder for about 6 months of time. After 6 months, he just goes cold turkey on me. We don't have a relationship anymore. We don't talk. And he actually went and raised about $400,000 in a pre-seed round for his startup. after that $400,000 was in his company, again, he just went cold on me. I didn't hear from him at all. I didn't talk to him. And then about 9 months go by, he comes back to me and he pings me again. He goes, Tyler, I'm out of money. I raised $400,000. I spent it. I whipped up 4 hires. I went to trade shows. I bought hotels. I did this and that. And I'm out of money. I need help now. And I think he was embarrassed over those 9 months to come and tell me, hey, Tyler, like, I'm spending frivolously. I need help. And he was embarrassed to come and talk to me. But the second that we started talking again, we worked through it. And actually just recently, our venture fund just invested additional capital into that company because we pivoted. We found a working business model and a product that actually has product market fit. And his company is now completely resurrected. So don't be intimidated by mentors just because you're doing something wrong. I think being upfront and real with them and telling them, hey, I do have a problem. I do need help. Help me figure this out is the best way to approach mentors. And how to find a mentor. I know this all sounds great, but it seems really hard to find perfect mentors. It is really hard. But again, I think it goes back to building those relationships. Be a people person. Smile more. Shake hands. Talk to everybody. Talk to your program managers. Right here at RevRoad, you have an amazing resource. Talk to other startup founders who are also being mentored. Find someone who's already mentoring someone else, and they can hopefully mentor you. I think the best mentors are mentoring a ton of people. Because they're just a wealth of knowledge. So also look into tools and software. In my career, I've used tools and software to aid my mentorship. And tools and software, I mean, things like Clarity.fm. Clarity.fm, you can literally go online, pay for an hour of time for anybody. In my career, I've used this multiple times. Actually, back when I was building some marketing channels for Dev Mountain, Clarity FM, I stumbled upon it, and I saw that the VP of marketing for Instagram was on there, and this was right when Instagram ads were coming out. If you remember when Facebook bought Instagram, it didn't have ads, and then Facebook, they bought it to purposely have the sponsorship of ads to make that revenue channel for Instagram. So I saw on Clarity FM, oh, the VP of marketing is on Instagram. I'm going to buy an hour of his time. It was literally $55 for an hour of this guy's time. So I talked to him. We have an awesome conversation. We hit it off, and he actually allowed Dev Mountain to be in this beta test for Instagram ads back in like 2014 or 15, and I was one of the only ones allowed on that beta program to advertise on Instagram, and that just blew up Dev Mountain like crazy because we were literally right next to Dole and Goodrich Tires and Nike and all these other huge brands, and then little old Dev Mountain was on the beta program of Instagram ads. So you never know. And then also like Facebook groups, Reddit, Quora, those guys, those forums and communities are a wealth of knowledge. So, it doesn't always have to be in-person one-on-one mentoring live with someone that you might be intimidated by. You can also, turn to software and tools and online websites to get mentorship as well. But anyways, that's me, guys. My name is Tyler, and I hope you enjoyed it.
Give it up,
Thank
you guys.
you.
Give it up for Tyler. Cool. Thanks, Tyler. That was amazing. Cool. All right, so we can fill 2 questions probably. Do we have questions for Tyler? Let's take 1 or 2. Don't be shy. Remember, he just said be friendly and be outgoing and be excited. Scott.
I just want to tell you, Tyler, that you did an amazing job. That was so packed full of information, and I thought one little nugget that sometimes mentees don't do very well is respect the time of the mentor. You mentioned that what happens is they'll say, well, I can't make that day, and I always say, you know what? If you need my time, I think you need to accommodate me, not you. Yeah. And so I think that's a really important point. Tyler's done some great things. Nice job, Tyler.
Thank you, Scott. Yeah, good point.
Any others? Over here.
Besides getting like a signed basketball, and like, what are some other things that people can do to be a good mentee?
Again, provide value. I think one thing that the reason why mentorship relationships exist is, again, because the mentor wants some type of value as well, whether that's asking them to be an advisor and take a small portion of equity in exchange for that time and knowledge, or even if it's just being a data point for them, right? Typically, mentors are, industry experts in the same field that you're executing in, and they want to know your information. They want to know you and use you as a data point to say, okay, this is where industry trends are, or this is what's going on. And so I do think there's a lot of value that mentors can receive from mentees as long as they're open and honest and real, and again, can be that one data point for the mentor to understand more about what's happening in that economy or that field or that vertical, right? So, anyways.
Fantastic. All right, you guys,
Okay,
give it
thank
up
you,
one more
guys.
time for Tyler.
Thank
and
you,
his
thank you.
information's right there on the screen.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Tyler. Turning it back over to Bruce.
Cool. Now we'll have Bree come up and introduce our guest. It's time for our Builder series. So we've got Jeremy and Kristin. So Bree, if you'll come up, we'll give it up for her. Okay.
Drum roll, please. Welcome back to RevUniversity, everybody. It's so good to see you. We got the place packed today, which means I expect high energy and engagement, so don't disappoint. You guys, we have some really, really rad guests today. First up, we have Kristin Andrus. Kristin Andrus is a community champion who advocates for women, children, and refugees within and beyond Utah. She is Chief Culture Officer to her husband and 6 children. Guys, I'm out of breath because I ran up here, truly. Okay, Kristin. Kristin serves as a board member for the Ronald McDonald House Charities of the Intermountain area, the Neighborhood House, and for Undefeated, an organization serving underprivileged youth and single mothers in Uganda. In addition, she holds advisory roles with the First Lady of Utah, Supriya Foundation, Utah Valley University, and Women Who Succeed. Nonprofits count on Kristin for her social media and marketing savvy, as well as her supernatural ability to get stuff done. With over 100,000 combined followers on social media and live cooking segments on Utah's Studio 5, Kristin has built a platform for awareness and impact. In November 2020, Kristin launched Sister Goods, a campaign with the Utah Food Bank that raised over $500,000 in its first year to supply over 3 million menstrual care products to pantries, shelters, and foster care facilities throughout Utah. Give it up for Kristin Andrus. Joining us today, we also have Jeremy Andrus. Can I get a power couple? Okay. Jeremy Andrus is the president and CEO of Traeger Grills. He and a financial partner acquired the company in 2014, transforming it from a small regional 26-year-old business into a multi-hundred-million-dollar brand that owns over 50% of the global wood pellet grill market. While Traeger has become Jeremy's most successful growth story, it isn't his first. He joined startup Skull Candy in 2005 with 4 employees, less than $1 million in sales. Under his leadership, Skull Candy disrupted the headphone and wearable electronic space, growing into a $300 million public company. Jeremy has obviously received a list of awards. He received his MBA from Harvard Business School and his BA from Brigham Young University. He lives in Salt Lake City with his wife, Kristin Andrus, and their 6 children. And I've heard he makes a perfect steak. Yeah. So please give it up for Jeremy and Kristin Andrus.
That last piece is the most important part.
That's what I figured. I figured we had to keep it in there. And really, I was looking at your bios and I was like, wow, these are really long. And then as I was reading through them, there was nothing I could cut out.
I gave you a shorter one.
You did, and I completely did ignore it because it just did not do justice to who you are. To kick things off, let's get to know you more. Who should we start with? Kristin. Tell us 3 things you admire about Jeremy that he probably would not tell us that make him a great father, individual, and businessman.
The first one, and I say this a lot because it's true, is he's as good as everyone says he is. We're like, no, but they're not that good of a human, or they're not that kind, or that, entrepreneur or whatever it is. He actually is. I ended up marrying an incredible human being, and so he really is that good. He is an incredible violinist.
Really?
He plays by ear, so my kids can be like, play Taylor Swift, Shake It Off. He could just play it. I brought his violin. It's in the car.
We expect that as the grand finale.
And then the third is he loves being a dad. we joke we'll go to New York City or London or anywhere in the world, and the taxi driver's like, he was always talking to them. Tell me about yourself. He's like, what about you guys? I'm like, I have no kids. I'm like a single lady. And he's like, we have 6 kids. And he brags because I just like to take off that mom hat for a minute. And he relishes in the kids and spending time with them. The minute he gets home, he's all in on vacations. He's all in. He loves being a dad.
Oh, I
So
love
win for
that.
me.
I think that's amazing. Jeremy, don't get too comfy because you're up to tell us 3 things about Kristin.
I hate following Kristin, by the way. Not because that was about me. She's hard to follow. You know what? It's I knew that Kristin was amazing when I married her, and you realize that as you look back, marriage is a leap of faith, and Kristin has exceeded all of my expectations. If I were to pick out 3 things, number 1, she not only has more energy than any human being I know, but she gets more done with it. She doesn't just spin. It's like she goes and she gets stuff done fast and lots of it. She has the ability to rally and gather like no other human being I've ever seen. I mean, it's truly unbelievable. I remember when we were recently married, and she said we'd moved into a small house in Sugar House, and fortunately I married someone who had a payroll and a little bit of a nest egg that she built up because I didn't have 2 nickels to rub together, and I was doing this skull candy thing, and so she bought us a house and made me sign a prenuptial to. I'm just kidding. And I remember she came to me and said, "Hey, we're gonna have a Christmas party this year." I'm like, "No." First of all, I didn't really grow up in a home that I'm more of an introverted person. I would rather not. I don't mind attending a Christmas party. I don't want it to be my Christmas party. And I said, problem number 2, we don't really have any friends. And turns out, we've just been married. I mean, we have friends now. And a whole bunch of people showed up. She packed the house, and it wasn't just a Christmas party. It was this wonderful, it's like it was a great evening. And, that's grown from 30 people to 400 people, and they're all our closest friends, and it's as many as we can fit. But her ability to bring people together in a way that they not only want to come, but they leave feeling good. That's an incredible quality. And then I will say deep kindness and desire to do good with that energy. And that's been the interesting thing. You have 6 kids, and your life just revolves around 6 kids. And we had 6 in 8 years, and we got the surprise package of little boys at the end, and they are totally insane. And yet somehow Kristin has managed to not only be an amazing mom, but get outside and truly do things in the community, heavy lifting things every day. So she uses that energy for good and just leaves a wake of positivity.
You two have been supporting each other, loving each other, doing the whole power duo thing for a while. You acquired Traeger in 2014, right? And it was already 26 years old. So what were the traits or the proof of promise that you recognized in Traeger that drew you into that acquisition?
So Kristin was a bit of a naysayer at first.
Every investment, I'm a naysayer, and it's true.
They don't all work out.
He has good odds.
This one is jury's still out, but it's doing okay. But I remember I found this, and I went to Oregon, and I sat down with a dozen consumers in a conference room, and I had no interest in grilling, outdoor cooking. I didn't like the category. It's commoditized. I was coming from skull candy. I didn't cook. I liked food, but I didn't cook. And so I went up there, and I just heard these consumers just profess their love for this small brand that I'd never heard of. And I recognized there was some magic that had been created without a lot of investment, really hadn't made its way outside of the Pacific Northwest. Came home, went to the store, bought a Traeger, I'm telling Kristin about it. I put it together. It had the wrong hardware, and the directions were like hard to understand. And I'm like, it's going to make your food taste better. He's like, yeah, right. First of all, you can't cook.
I manned the barbecue our whole marriage.
Yeah. You didn't have to say that.
Until Traeger. Those darn gas grills.
It is true. When we made amazing ribs, they were hers, not mine. We both do now. And I brought it home, set it up, and she was skeptical, and I cooked chicken. And she said, whoa, this is good, and you cooked it. And so there was like something very, very simple and yet very profound about this. I'll call it, it was a gem. It was a gem that just hadn't found its way to market, and it said it actually changed people's lives. People would buy this product, bring it home, and they would start to cook for their families, and it would change their families because they didn't go out to fast food. They ate at home, and and we love the mission of, what's turned out to be the mission of the business, but food is this great communal experience that brings people together. It like doesn't matter from where, it's a common bond. And we love that about it. We think food's important and experiences around table with family, friends, loved ones. And so it was pretty raw when we bought it. Now, we knew that, but it was a lot more raw than we'd understood. And there was definitely a moment where I regretted it deeply.
Well, that's my next question is, what did you learn in this acquisition process? Probably both of you. What did you learn?
Well, I'll say what we learned, he, both of us, in between. Skull Candy was 8 years, all in. He was never home, head down. I think he was very, very into the details of every meeting. He did not go to Best Buy, Target, like wherever he was, always gone, always in China. And then he took a year off to figure out what was next. And that's where I feel like the learning, it was like he really took time. He met with people, but then he sat down and probably wrote down and thought like, what did I do wrong? What did I do right? And how am I going to do it differently? And even that work-life balance, he was very, very careful of when Traeger started, even though it was as much of a startup as Skull Candy, almost in a different way. He did it differently. Like he came home at 6:30 or 7. He built an incredible team. He didn't have to be as involved in every single thing. He was higher level. Like there was 100 different things, but it changed our family, and it changed. It was also I did love to cook, and that was my thing, and so it was really cool. It really became more of a family thing, affair where our kids were involved. They felt like it was. It just was different. He created a different narrative this time and how he went about things, and it's still to this day.
It was truly it was a family endeavor, and but as I step back and think about what did we learn? I mean, it's like you can talk about market position, product innovation, messy supply chain, learned about embezzlement and IP theft in China, and like the learnings are endless. But I would say, like at the highest level, we sort of step back and think about what drives us, what makes us tick. And like early in my career, I wanted to be successful. I didn't really know what that meant. I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I certainly didn't anticipate what that meant. I wanted to pay off the Subaru, our mortgage, my day trading debt that I had from before we got married, and then put a few bucks in the bank. And we got to that moment, and then you realize we're safe, like we're secure. We're in a place where we can actually think about how do we have impact, and that's something that that we talk about. And if I were to say what did I really learn at Traeger, it's a whole bunch of things that I would say surround having positive impact, and it's as a business leader, when you have when you've accomplished more than you expected to, you sort of step back and say, boy, this is borrowed time now. Like my career is more than I expected. So how do I do something that's not just meaningful for me as a professional business leader or for us as a family and a partnership, but How do we do something that's meaningful for everyone that connects? My team, their families, our customers that are around the world, our community. Kristin talked about family. That's one of the areas of impact that I thought a lot about. I remember a moment where Kristin said, we had daughters 4 and 2 years old. She was driving in Park City, going not very, very close to the office, and our 4-year-old Audrey said, "Hey, look, that's where Daddy lives." And she's like, "That's his office." But we knew what she meant. Yeah. Dad spent a lot of time there, and so I think you step back and figure out how can we be better, not because we spin our wheels faster, but because we're more thoughtful around what we do.
I love that. And we can feel the thought that you put into building Traeger in the brand and the culture. What did you pay special mind to when reshaping the way that Traeger functions and is recognized as a brand?
One thing that I hadn't been as deliberate or intentional about as I spent time in startups is building culture, because culture is a little bit more of this. It's organic. You hire people who you connect with. They're positive. They see the world a little bit the same that you do. They all bring different sets of experiences and backgrounds, and that's super important. But you share this aligned vision because you sort of build it from scratch. When you buy a 27-year-old business, I mean, there are just bodies buried behind the walls that you can't anticipate. And I'd never stepped into an organization like this, and I was like 24 hours on board as CEO when I realized that we had just made a terrible mistake. We had written a very large check to invest in the business, and I realized very quickly and over the course of 6 months, very painfully, that we were part of a culture that was just painfully toxic. That I truly would show up and feel sick to my stomach, and I hadn't felt like that since junior high school. Like going into a cafe. I remember going to our headquarter office. I was quiet, not very popular in junior high school. And so there was a little bit of PTSD. And I remember going up to our Wilsonville headquarter office and going into the break room cafeteria, sitting down at a table and trying to get to know my team. And like pretty quickly, people finished their lunch and left. And it wasn't a place that was positive. It wasn't a place that people wanted to be. There was no aspiration to being part of Traeger. It was built in this very fear-based way, and so I developed this very fundamental belief that the X factor in not just a business, but any organization, a community, a family, a nonprofit, in this case Traeger, the X factor is the culture that allows people to share a common set of beliefs. You can't scale an organization by micromanaging individuals, nor do people really give that much more than their job unless they're truly bought into the mission and purpose of your organization. And culture is the foundation of that. And so, we spent a lot of time. We set out to change it. It didn't happen very easily. And we eventually did some very drastic things, believing that if culture is a lens that we view how we build team, and capability is sort of minimum threshold, that's how you build something special. And it seems to be working. I honestly can't think of, this business went from 0 to $70 million over 27 years. And then over the next 8 years went from $70 million to nearly $800 million. And it's a wood pellet grill. What did we do differently? We built a team of people that bought into a set of cultural values and that really wanted to be part of something, not selling grills, not selling steel, but become part of something that was greater than that, something that was not just important to us as owners in the business, but that was important to our consumers. That actually was like one of those very few important brands that they look to and say that's meaningful.
So what were some of those company values that you established?
So we have 5 cultural values, and they're Traegerized, but they truly connect our vision for the business with the values that we think will drive the right sort of mindset and sort of behaviors. And so I can tell you what they are quickly. The first is done, 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 and that harkened from a very important career mentor of mine and current board member who built Under Armour, was the number 2 at Under Armour. That's about like truly believing in delivering quality. Everyone wants to deliver quality to our customer, but do you really, really care about delivering quality in every moment to every stakeholder, to your partners, even if you're a customer of theirs? Like when you build this notion that the details, like obsessing over the things that say, I care about you because I'm delivering something of quality. Another is test kitchen mentality. I'm such a believer that the best organizations build a team of people who fundamentally believe in getting better. And like progress is everything. And so, when you build an organization, people, you just want them to do things and do more of it and do it faster and more efficiently. You miss what really drives human beings, and that's being able to say, I have more confidence, I'm better at what I'm doing. And so we want people who care to get better, and then we want people who care to be in an organization that wants to invest in them. No reservations. That for us is all of the things that we do to service a customer, and it's not just how we service them when they call and we pick up the phone. It's like, okay, what went wrong? But it's upstream. How do you really care about and like thoughtfully respect every touch point that a customer experiences? Stand in the fire is about it's about risk taking and innovation, and it's about this notion that like really great startups, really great businesses are born from risk taking, and yet you really see as they grow, they get into this mindset of, I now have to protect what I have. And as soon as you go from playing offense to playing defense, the whole mindset of an organization shifts. It's actually really interesting to see, there's a graveyard littered with great companies that were innovators and disruptors that subsequently got disrupted. You think about Blockbuster, who, boy, they were going to beat Netflix by protecting their retail presence. You look at Polaroid or Kodak, who developed a digital camera and said, this is going to wreck our core business. We need to double down on what brought us here. And there are 100 brands that I could name. And we want our team feeling willing and motivated to take risk, smart risk. We don't bet the farm on a single decision, but we have this portfolio of risk, and we want them to know that it's okay to fail. When you start to punish or look down on failure, no one will take risk. Last is cook together. I really, really value teams that are low ego. If you look at my leadership team, for example, it's a low ego team, and they're easy to work with. And those are your servant leaders. There are no heroes at Traeger. I'm actually sometimes embarrassed as CEO that, you stand in front of the media a lot and you get a lot of credit. And it's too cliche to say, like, the team behind me built it, but it's true. And so if you see how our team operates, there are no heroes. We want a team of people that show up with the desire to elevate the others and to not disappoint, as opposed to those who show up and they want to showcase the work that they did. So those are our 5 values. We start with like 25 ideas, and those are the ones that we believed most represented how we built this disruptive thing long term, but also the types of values that we believed inspired people to show up and really become their best selves.
I think a big part of inspiring people to show up to work is knowing that they are working towards a bigger picture, or they're also contributing to impactful work. And I know Traeger has a company give back program. Can you talk to us about that?
You've been very involved.
Yeah, we have 4. I'm like trying to think. We have 4 pillars. Jeremy's not as I came. I don't know. We work with the road. We've picked 4 distinct organizations and causes, and you can maybe speak more to this. But I know the Road Home is one of them, and there's the garden, that women's garden. It's like all food based, and so I think it really speaks to what Traeger cares about. And and then let's see,
Roots.
Oh, Roots Charter High School, which I brought to them. We love Roots. They have a farm. We've gone and brought, that's been some of the most special moments is bringing the students in, finding, I know you guys were talking about mentorship before, and we feel so strongly about that. And bringing them in. They're a farm-based high school. If you don't know about them, look them up, go on a tour. They're incredible. And then I think there was one more, but they also do a ton of cooking for refugee soccer games, and they're really out in the community giving back. And I think rather than always just like donating a check, they show up, they cook for people, they stand by their values and how we were just at the Road Home last night, chili affair, and we're always doing something like that that really speaks to the community and giving back. They're also a nationwide organization, so I know that there's a lot that they do that way as well.
Do you know, it's for us, the mission of Traeger is to bring people together. And to bring people together to create a more flavorful world. And for us, the most basic piece of that, the component of that is food. And it's good food, and it's food that brings people together around experience. But the flavorful world for us is it's the richness. It's the richness in a life well lived. It's not just the food as the center of that. And so everything that we do has to do with nourishing other people. And we really believe in doing the heavy lifting. You know, part of the reason a for-profit organization does these things is because it's good for the soul. And so there's this very symbiotic relationship between giving back and your organization believing that it feels good and that we stand for something. And so it's really important that we get out there and we cook the food, we serve the food, and that there's a connection between our mission and how we give back to the community. And we do things around the country, but it's always where we have people, and it's where our people can contribute in a meaningful, manual way.
And Kristin, you are very active in the community in so many different causes, but one that I am particularly passionate about, and I think is amazing that you are tackling this. Let's set the stage a little bit. Millions of women in the U.S. suffer isolation, infection, and missed opportunities because they are unable to afford tampons and pads. Yet these women cannot use SNAP or food stamps and medical benefits to purchase menstrual products. Moreover, 30 states, including Utah, tax tampons as a luxury good. The consequences are heartbreaking. 23% of U.S. students struggle to afford period products. Nearly 1 in 5 American girls have missed school due to period poverty. In one study, 2/3 of low-income women couldn't afford menstrual products, and 36% missed work each month as a result. Tell us more about your work to fight period poverty.
Yeah, so this is something that was kind of this little known fact that when we brought it to the surface and started talking about it, it was kind of this aha moment of, we know that we have food insecurity, we know about the food bank and free lunch program at school, but a lot of us didn't know about period poverty. And I think once you hear about it, you're like, oh, of course. And every woman here knows that feeling of not having what you need when you need it. And then you put yourself when you're 13 or 12, or in the case nowadays, you're like 11 and you don't even know what's going on, and maybe you don't have a mom and dad at home that are helping you. And so many of those girls and women that are going to the food bank or standing in the free lunch line choose every single month between buying period products and buying food. I had a fundraiser at my house a couple days ago, and Jeanette Bott, who's the CEO of the food bank, had this really great visual for us. And she had 6 boxes of macaroni and cheese and 3 cans of Chef Boyardee and 1 box of tampons. And she said, I was the single mom, and I was on the street, and I will tell you what my choice is every single month. I can buy this much food for my family, for my daughter and I, or I can buy 1 box of tampons. I'm absolutely gonna go without. that choice is easy. And that visual to me, I've been talking about this for a while now, but it really stopped me. And I thought, every single mom is going to make that choice. It's not a luxury. Like, that makes it feel like, well, it's a luxury, and it's not. And so my friend Emily McCormick, who's actually here, has been working on the tampon tax for 5 years now. So come on, state legislature, let's go. She's still working on it. But I was working with the food bank and making sure that this immediate need was being met, and that when women were going to 226 pantries from Logan to St. George, that they could pick up with their Chef Boyardee and their macaroni and cheese, they could pick up that box of pads or tampons, which they just weren't buying. And then Emily and I joined together, and she had been working on policy for a number of years. And it's hard, right, in a state like Utah, and it can feel like it's not going to work. But we went up and talked to the speaker and talked to the president. We were actually back there yesterday, so we're not stopping. But Emily had this idea of bringing them into the schools. And so with a couple of families that decided to do a public-private partnership, Gail Miller and her family, and they just, once they heard about period poverty, had never even entered their mind. They were like, this is a no-brainer. We're in. What can we do? And so it was really neat to get the community involved. We really created this groundswell of talking about it, of using our megaphone, and then having other people use their megaphones. Emily and I laughed that we were on this like dog and pony show across the state talking about period poverty and just starting to talk about it. And I think when women use their voices and their resources and their talents and their energy, we are the change. I've had so many thought leaders in Utah, like everyone who's like projecting of how can we change Utah? Do you know what the answer is? And do you know that it's the only way that we can change Utah? Women and moms. I believe that. I see that. If we want change, we have to use our voices. We have to find gaps, find problems, find, barriers in the way for our kids, for our girls, for our women, for our families, right? And make sure that we are lifting them up, that we are the voice. I go to these school board meetings or all of these different things. I'm like, these friends of mine on the margin don't have a seat at the table. Who is here speaking for them? Because most people are like, I'm here for me and my family and my neighborhood, and don't. But I'm like, it's we, not me. And so that's really been kind of the drum that I've been beating to, and I want to be that seat at the table, seat up at the Capitol, seat wherever it is that these people do not even know about the meeting. They don't know how to show up to a meeting. Like, there's 100 barriers just getting to the meeting to even use their voice. And so many of us are needed to use their voice, and that's how I intend to spend most of my time.
Absolutely incredible. And you stay very active towards all of these areas of change that are very needed within our state and within the nation. And it's a very demanding time at Traeger Grills right now. So talk to me, how do you do what you do? How do you divide and conquer and continue to get it all done?
Oh, man. I hire help. I have an awesome assistant. I had a great day yesterday. I had this really cool meeting with Sherry Dew, who's like a thought leader in the LDS church, and different meetings that I just came home at 4 o'clock, like so energized. And I got on Instagram, because that's what I do, and I hold my phone up and I talk, and I'm like, do not forget that as women, there is always the flip side. I just had the most incredible day out of my home in important meetings and hopefully helping to change the world, but I wasn't with my kids. So when you see women out killing it and building businesses and doing incredible things, they're not home with their kids. And when women are home with their kids, they're not out doing incredible things. There's always this flip side. And so for me, it's this balance, and I talk a lot about creating my balance, not finding it, because I think you're always, especially with a busy couple, you can't find the balance. You have to create it and be intentional about it. So I would say yesterday I was not home, and today I'm not home again. Normally I would try to, balance that out a little bit. So if I have a crazy week, then I'm going to try to be home a little bit more. If he's gone out of town, then I'm going to try to be home. There's times that I say no to girlfriends. There's times that I say heck yes to girlfriends because I need it. But I think it's realizing that I'm always sacrificing something. And I think that's as a woman, and I'd be interested in Jeremy's point of view. I don't think it's as much for men, but I'm always missing something. There's always that, but I'm not where I'm supposed to be at home or out. And that's just, it's a place that you just feel you end up being okay with. And then with him and I, he gives me free reign to do whatever the heck I want. And I'm so grateful for it. He supports me. He's my biggest cheerleader. He's like, go get him. He understands I'm just not the type of mom. I have 6 kids, but I can't be home all day. I think I'd be a depressed, angry mess. I just would. And so that I can get out and bring my kids. I bring my kids as much as possible so that they're a part of this giving back in the community. But it truly makes me a better mother. It absolutely makes me a better wife. And I'm a happier, fulfilled woman. On my own. He still gets all the accolades. I get a little bit. But I remember him coming home one day and I'm like, in the midst of, I was probably like covered in milk and Cheez-Its, and I was like, this is all about you. And I was like miserable. And I was so sad. And then all of a sudden I was like, this is not his problem to solve. This is my problem to solve. So I stopped my complaining and I took back control, and I was like, I am going to ensure that when he comes home from work, I am 100% because I took control over my life. I ensured that my cup was full. He can't do that. No, my kids can definitely not do that. I am the only one that has the power and the control to ensure that I am getting what I want out of my life. And that's me telling him, I need this. I want this. Can you help me? We're a team. It's us together, and me being 100%, him being 100%, it's magic.
There you go. First of all, depressed, angry mess.
I know, not
I've
exactly.
never seen her depressed or
true.
angry in my
Yeah,
life.
no, that's true. I wasn't really.
So maybe it's all relative. One of the things that I really internalized post Skull Candy is that balance is like it's elusive, and you can find it day by day, but over time you simply have to decide what trade-offs you're okay with. And I'm actually very confident if I worked 20 hours more a week, I would be a better CEO. There are problems that I could spend time solving, but it's not worth it to me. Like that trade-off is not the right trade-off. And I think when you recognize that you have finite hours to get things done, and after I came out of Skull Candy and said, boy, I was willing to give everything to that, and it's not worth it. Like life is just not worth it. I was much more deliberate about thinking about how do I decide what I'm willing to trade off professionally and personally from a family perspective, and then how do I make sure that I'm not mistaking action for progress by just running faster? Because there comes a moment where you simply say, stop. I'm effective if I go in and I use my time in the highest and best way, as opposed to trying to check off a list of 1,000 things. I'm effective when I know that at 6:30 p.m., I shut my laptop mid-sentence and I go home. Because if I don't, the path of least resistance, I can stay forever. And if I leave at midnight, I'll say, boy, I didn't finish everything. And so I'm effective because it forces me to prioritize my day, and that forces me to think about what are the 2 or 3 needle-moving things that I can do, meetings that I can have, decisions that I can make. Maybe it's not even 2 or 3. Maybe it's a single thing. And so as opposed to loading up my calendar with meetings where other people, I can empower other people to make decisions, I try to be a lot more thoughtful around where can I actually move the needle. And that allows me to feel better about my trade-offs because, the further you get to the right of the decimal point, the less the trade-off even has value. And so I work fewer hours than I used to, but I still work a solid week. And when the kids are in bed, I'll still get back online and just see if there are 1 or 2 things that I need to attend to. But, I've just realized that if I'm smarter, then I can build a set of trade-offs that I go to bed at night feeling good about.
One more question before we open it up for the audience. The trajectory of the economy could be very disheartening to entrepreneurs. What opportunities or silver linings do you guys see on the horizons?
This is something that we have thought a lot about recently, partly because our business has really been whipsawed over the last 36 months by the economy. We were a methodical, steady grower, and then we shot up, and then our margins got crushed, and then consumers said, I want to travel, not buy things. And so, I sort of step back and say, it can't get any worse than this moment right now. Now it always can. But I think that, it's, I think it could be turbulent over the next couple of years. And I actually believe that you have to, if you build a business the right way, you sort of power through turbulence. And I don't want to suggest you don't know it's there, but you're so thoughtful around what you're building that you're just less prone to the economic macro cycles. And I remember at Skull Candy, for example, I was told there was a recession like 09, 10, 11. I have no recollection of that. We just grew and grew and grew. And what we talk about at Traeger is, number one, if we can build a customer experience that people really care about, if the product that we build and the experience they have with it is always like the very best, it's not just better than our competition, it's the very best experience that we can imagine together. And if we build a brand that connects with them on an emotional level, we'll always have loyalty with our community, our customer base. Then the other piece of it is, how do you always take a resourceful, bootstrap, scrappy approach to building a business in good times and in bad? And I think that's where companies get into trouble. It's like when resources are scarce, you do things so much better. You're so much more creative. You're so much more diligent around how you use them. And then suddenly things start to go well, and you become less disciplined. And sometimes you don't recover from that. And so we just believe that, the filter to invest or to spend money, to hire, I don't care how big or how profitable, it's the same. And I think fiscal responsibility or discipline connected with always obsessing over the experience that your customer has, that just leads to a great outcome. Do you feel the macro? Yeah, you ebb and flow a little bit, but you fear it less.
And I have one thing to add, because I know the question wasn't for me. What an incredible time to give back in your community. The needs are higher than ever in the food space, in the food scarcity, mental health. Like, what a great time to be an entrepreneur that's building an incredible business, but then also having a part of it where you are obviously creative and can come up with creative solutions for a lot of problems out there. And so I think it really gives us this opportunity to say, what are some of the really big problems? And I can be a solution. And it's not about money. And I think when we think about giving back, it's like writing a check or being a donor. It's not. It's about using your time and your talents to make someone's life better. That can be in your home, it can be in your neighborhood, it can be in your community. But what an incredible time to reach out, get involved, start being curious about problems, and start helping become part of the solution.
I love that. Thank you both so much. So we will now open it up for audience questions. If you have a question, please raise your hand. We will run a microphone to you so our audience online can hear as well. So we'll go ahead and get started.
Hey, Jeremy and Kristen, this was awesome. Thanks so much. My name's Kenny, and I'm building a company right now. And we're having a great time doing it. You mentioned, Jeremy, one of the keys to building good culture is finding people who care to get better. And I just wanted to see, what are like your top 3, or maybe your top choice of like in your tool belt of how you identify those people, just kind of your pragmatic ways to do that.
So it's a great question. I probably interviewed 99% of the first 400 people we hired. I mean, like, I interviewed everyone. I don't care what position it was. And when I first told and we sort of started over. I mean, we let go 100 of our 110 team members to start over, move the company here. And when I first told my team I wanted to do that, they're like, what? Like, first of all, it's a bad use of your time. Second of all, we didn't think you were a micromanager. I'm sure they think we wouldn't have joined had we thought you were a micromanager. And I said, just to be clear, this has nothing to do with micromanaging. I don't need to see anyone's resume. I don't care what role we're hiring them for. I view a founder CEO's role, like, first and foremost, as filtering, it's protecting culture. And how do you protect culture? Well, you don't motivate people to live differently than their DNA. You filter for culture when you bring them in. And so I interviewed everyone. And there did come a moment where that just wasn't sustainable. And so so then I said, well, how do we scale like this really effective ability to filter for culture? And I've seen it, I see it over and over again. I would have people come to my office, super capable, but I would just go back to the hiring manager and say, my gosh, did you think about this? This person's never taken a risk in their life. Why do we think that this is like the right place for them? And I got fewer and fewer of those people. Then I said, okay, we're gonna be very intentional around how we train anyone who hires. And I remember getting the leadership team together, and we separated into small groups and said, okay, I want you to come back with three specific questions that really effectively get at each of the 5 values, so 15 questions. How can we discover through these questions that have nothing to do with a professional accomplishment if our values are already in their DNA? And it was hard. I mean, like people struggled, and they thought it was gonna be really easy. Well, we spent a lot of time figuring this out, and then we published and we go through. Anyone that hires needs to be deeply trained on this, because I think you learn how to filter for capability in your function really quickly in your career, but filtering for values is much harder, and it's been game changing. I will tell you that we get it right so much more than we get it wrong, and that wasn't the case early on.
Okay, I have a question as well, and I think both of you touched on this a little bit, but maybe more directly. How do you avoid the burnout of all of the roles that both of you guys are juggling?
So, you know what? I remember looking at a family friend who ran Black & Decker for 28 years. I remember he's in his mid-60s and just thinking, how do you do it every day? Like, how do you come back every day? He's a bishop, a stake president. I mean, like, very, very full schedule. And I don't know that I completely understood that until recently. And that's because I feel more energy and more motivation than at any moment in my career. And my motivation's different. It hasn't had anything to do with money for a long time. And I wondered, like, when I feel like I've been successful, we've made money, do I suddenly, and some people, they tap out because that was the goal. I'm going through the most complicated, messiest, most difficult moment of my career, and I love it. I mean, like, I would rather be winning, to be clear, but the problems that we're solving, they're really interesting, and I don't fear them anymore. And so I think, you know, really, for me, burnout's about really understanding what makes me tick, and it's personal, it's professional, it's community, and then suddenly the energy grows even though I'm getting slightly older day by day. But the energy grows, and it's really cool where you start to feel this intersection between, like, a lot of energy to keep doing good and having impact, and just more confidence and knowledge and pattern recognition, because these things aren't rocket science, but really going through experiences has just made me and us a lot more capable of making better decisions faster. Yeah, and I'd say part of that for me was recognizing who am I
as a woman? And how does that reflect in my motherhood, in being a wife, being a sister, being a friend, and authentically owning who I am? So I'm like, I can't, like all my neighbors, you know, when my kids were little, were home all day, never left the house. And I'm like gonna freak out if I do that. Like I remember calling Jeremy, he's like traveling between some city to some city. I'm like, come home. Like I had one kid. It's funny, I have 6 now and I'm like, no big deal. I was freaking out because like I didn't know how to survive because I had this kid and I couldn't get out of the house. So I'm like, this is the woman I am, and I owned it and I got what I needed and I'm taking care of myself, and I listen to a podcast or read a book or go for a walk with a friend or go out to dinner with Jeremy or travel. Like I think we both also like own what we need in our marriage, what I need as a woman. I also say as a woman, and maybe it's in your business, maybe it's as a mother, whatever that looks like for you, is making sure that hat of Kristin, of like who you are, is not too far from mom or CEO or whatever, that like you can be you and you can exercise and read, like whatever that thing is to you that like makes you you. I look back at my life and I'm proud to say, and every day I want to say I'm more me than I've ever been. And I feel that every day because I'm authentic and true to myself, not what others do and not what looks good on Instagram or outside, but it's like, this is what I need to function at my best. And only I can answer that and then ask for help from my village, my team, building, you know, amazing friendships, whatever that is, incredible, you know, partners around the community.
I actually remember the moment that she just described. I was traveling between Philadelphia and Los Angeles with a layover in Salt Lake City for about 30 minutes. And I landed, and I got this, like, I will say, fairly spirited, tearful voicemail. And it's dumping snow. And I sat and I thought about it. And they started to shut the doors of the plane. And I grabbed my bag and I ran off. And I took a cab home. And that was early in our marriage. And like another thing that I've thought about a lot and we think about together is that, you know, early on, my career was all about me. And not nefariously, not intentionally. It's just like I'd always thought about my career since I was a kid, and you know. So we enjoyed each other, but we kind of we lived parallel lives a bit. With as much as I worked and traveled, and I could be in China and get on Skype and have a conversation and see her again a day or two later. And when it becomes a team sport, it's a lot more motivating. It gives us a lot more energy. It's not just supporting one another, but actually caring. That for me has been, I mean, like it's team sport. Yeah, you got a lot of support, not just behind you, but next to you.
I mean, he's been talking about periods more than he ever thought he would in his life.
I will say,
he has leaned in hard.
There was a moment where I drove home. And I aspire to have very little in life, and one of those things was a garage door that I could park, a garage that I could park my car in, which we didn't have for years. It's like clear off the snow. We finally got it. I remember one day pulling in, opening the garage, and it was like loaded with pads and tampons to the ceiling. It's like I finally get a garage, and now it's a store. It's a warehouse. Our dinner conversations have changed a lot over the last few years.
All right, we have one more question over here.
Actually, I don't have a question. I just wanted to say that I appreciate what you've brought today. I think as entrepreneurs, we're so highly focused on building the thing that we're trying to build that sometimes we lose sight. And I love, Kristin, how you explained that we don't have to wait until our ship comes in to become this philanthropic person. We can do that along the way, because really when your ship comes in, if you're a jerk, you're just a jerk with more money. It doesn't change who you are. And so I really appreciate that. And I have direct knowledge of this because I know that you support Food for Kids in an organization that my family and I have volunteered at for 6 years. And I just think it's fantastic. So thank you very much for today.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. We have one last question that we'd like to ask everyone who joins us on the RevRoad stage. What is something fun that your success has allowed you to do?
I'll go first. Absolutely, hands down, giving back. Like, we've had a couple of successful outcomes, and I remember, sitting on a spin bike waiting for the deal to close where you're like, this is it, this is the pinnacle of everything. And then you're like, my kids still fight. I still have so much laundry. Like, life goes on, and you're like, not much has changed. But I remember when he texted me, and I remember crying, and it was like the exact opposite reaction of what I thought I would have. And I felt this really, really heavy responsibility of where much is given, much is required. And it actually made me like sick, like physically sick. And I still remember that feeling. And I left, and I thought, we have so much to do. But I think I've turned that on its head, where it's become who we are as a family. It's not what we do, but it's who we are. And it has absolutely been the most incredible part of our family culture, of things that I do with my kids when we travel, giving back. Like, when we look back on any opportunity, those are the ones that I remember. Is we'll be at For the Kids tomorrow, actually, with those are the moments. And it's not the great vacation, it's being hot and hungry and giving back on vacation that your kids remember. But it's afforded us these cool opportunities that I would say you don't have to have money to do. I think I probably thought that you did, but you don't, because you can show up and sign up and volunteer and find out what you care and love about and just go. So I would say it afforded us this vision and this new world into giving back and loving others and lifting others in our community. And I don't know that we would have done that. I could have, but I don't know if I would have started the path.
I didn't grow up in a family with much money, and it's something that I worry about, that we worry about. Our children are growing up differently than I did, and we really want them to understand the world, not the world that we live in. We live in a holiday Utah, and it's like this amazing little bubble. 8 weeks ago, it was a Sunday afternoon, we were sitting on the floor of a townhome of a Nepali family as they cooked, and we ate with our hands, and our children. It was really interesting to watch our children who do who do this all the time. They find themselves in places where they can get a different perspective on the world. And, initially they were uncomfortable. It's like the first time you do something like that, it's like, whoa, this isn't like my house. We're not eating with knives and forks. Not that our kids don't throw food with their hands. But, we really want our children to see the world from a different perspective. And so we're able to do that locally. We're able to get out and travel the world. We were in, right before the pandemic, we were in Peru on a charity vision trip, and we were in small towns and schools, and putting glasses on children that have never really seen the world before, because, and so it's really cool where, the downside is that there's always a risk of entitlement and work ethic, and we fear it, and we do everything we can to work around that. But the upside is that they get to have a perspective on the world that's really interesting and hopefully forms how they think about giving back.
That is wonderful. Please give one more round of applause and thank you to Kristin and Jeremy Andrus. We have a gift for you. And I'm going to turn the time back over to Bruce Hassler.
All right, that was awesome, guys. So we've had a great day today. One of the things I really loved is like how intentional Jeremy and Kristin are with everything. I think that was one of the things that I took out of the interview and the questions. So thanks again so much for sharing this opportunity with us. Thank you, Bree. Tyler, thank you. We were here for you, just so you know. And I'd also like to thank our lunch sponsor, that's Central Bank. So they've provided lunch that's in the back for after we get finished. We invite everyone to go and have lunch and network and enjoy each other's company. And once again, thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
Hey, big girl, make her back it up. Make her back it up. Hey, big girl, make her back it up. Make her back it up. Hey, big girl, make her back it up. Make her back it up.